Here's the question if you're a son or a daughter. Have you honored your dad? Are you honoring your dad? Here's the question for the dads that are watching. Are you worthy of honor? It was Oscar Wilde who made the penetrating statement. Children begin by loving their parents. After a time, they judge them. Rarely, if ever, do they forgive them. We live in an interesting day. It seems like parents have come under fire. And I think it's time we dust off a familiar passage of Scripture. And it's interesting because before I read it, let me just ask you a question. If you were God and you were going to start a country, and you were going to come up with 10 principles that would govern the moral, emotional, spiritual nature of that country, what 10 principles would you come up with? Do you think you could do better than God did? The creator of the universe, the creator of nations, of families, of men and women? Well, just listen to how he starts. In the 10 commandments, the first 4 deal with our relationship with him and with the Sabbath, separating it and keeping it holy. The 5th commandment. Now, you would think at this point, as you pivoted away from how we relate to God, that 5th commandment would be pretty important. What do you think God would choose? Making sure we didn't murder people? Steal? Maybe lie? But where did God go? Well, let me read to you what he said in Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land your God is giving you. And you may find it interesting that right above that passage, I have written the forgotten commandment. Really? Yeah, really. If you were forming a nation, wouldn't you think he might say, hey, love your wives, love your families, finish well in your family and do a great job, because that's the basic unit of society. But no, God speaks to children, whether they are young or older, and he calls them to honor. And we've had a previous podcast about a month ago, and we talked about honoring your mother and what that means. Well, the word honor in the Hebrew language means to weigh them down, heavy them with respect, with admiration, with encouragement, being kind. The word honor embodies a lot of things. And if you listen to that podcast I did with my mom, you heard me tell the story, and I'll only tell it briefly here, but I told the story of how I was encouraging young people to honor their parents and realized I had a lot of work to do with mine. And ultimately, he led me to honor my mom and dad by beginning to tell them I love them and to write a tribute to them. A document that states unequivocally how we feel as sons and daughters about our mom and dad. And here, as we approach Father's Day, I just want to talk to you sons and daughters right now, and to the dads who are fathers. And so the first thing I want to ask the fathers is, are you worthy of honor? Good question, isn't it? Second thing I'd ask the sons and daughters, Are you honoring, not past tense? I know you gave them a dustbuster or whatever it was for Christmas, or a tie or house slippers for your dad, but have you honored them? How are you honoring them? Are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about developing a relationship with your dad? Making that a priority as you watch your father finish his course. Because all fathers are going to move on. They're going to die. And so I just want to spend a little time talking to you about this. And as we do, I think I want to remind fathers, husbands, and men just of their overall responsibility. And in my book, Stepping Up, it's to men, by the way, I have a chapter called The Courage to Initiate. Not be passive, but initiate. And I'll not get off on my soapbox on this right now, but I think there's a great need for men to be men. And you know what? This advertisement, I'm not going to tell you where it came from or who created it, but listen to this advertisement that I clipped out 15 years ago. Ran in major magazines all over the country. Here it is. Listen carefully. Once upon a time, men wore the pants and wore them well. Women rarely had to open doors, and little old ladies never had to cross the street alone. Men took charge because that's what men did. But somewhere along the way, the world decided it no longer needed men. Disco by disco, latte by foamy, non-fat latte, men were stripped of their khakis and left stranded on the road between boyhood and androgyny. But today, there are questions our genderless society has no answers for. The world sits idly by as cities crumble, children misbehave, and those little old ladies remain on one side of the street. For the first time since bad guys, we need heroes. I agree with that. We need grown-ups. We need men to put down the plastic fork and step away from the salad bar and untie the world from the ranks of complacency. It's time to get your hands dirty. It's time to answer the call of manhood. It's time to wear the pants. A Dockers commercial. I'm sure it ruffled feathers back then, and it's probably going to ruffle feathers today. But I'm going to tell you something. There is a battle for men, husbands, and fathers today as never before. And I think if you're a man, you need to step up. You need to cinch it up. Put on your khakis and go for it. And I'm just going to give you a great illustration. It's an illustration of my dad. He could have been a victim, a big-time victim, but he wasn't a victim. He was a man who was responsible for his own actions. My dad grew up in the early 1900s. He grew up in a log cabin in the Ozarks. Dirt poor. He and his 8 brothers and sisters were abandoned by his dad when he was just a young boy. My father stepped up and helped provide food, trapping animals and selling their pelts to make do for his mom and brothers and sisters. He got a high school education but went no farther, but in my opinion, he was wiser than any PhD. He led his wife and family and me, not perfectly. He was a flawed man. He wasn't perfect, but I tell you what, close to it in my opinion. He led employees. He taught me in his 5th grade Sunday school class. His first job as a businessman was delivering gasoline to service station, farmers and homeowners in a rural area of the Ozarks. His nickname was Hook. Not because he had a hook on his arm, but because he had a wicked curveball. He was a lefty, and that thing they said would fall off the plate. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. And he dated and finally married my mom, and they married a little later in life, and they eloped. I think to get away from their family, truthfully, just to be able to start their lives together. And were married for more than 44 years. Spent their honeymoon days going to the Kentucky Derby. My dad's word and a handshake were all you needed to do business with him. If he promised it, he did it. Never borrowed money. He built his first house in the middle of the Depression and paid $3,000 for it. I don't know how he did that. He was a quiet man who didn't need a lot of words to get attention, but he certainly got mine. He started and led 2 businesses within 3 miles of where he was born. He was a gasoline distributor and also delivered propane to homes to heat them in the winter. My dad worked for Phillips 66 for nearly 50 years. My dad had a small number of really good friends. He was very loyal. And as a boy, he took me hunting and fishing. In fact, we even went to South Dakota. I'm going to show you a relic from my childhood days. He asked me and paid for me to go on a pheasant hunt in South Dakota. Now, this bird's not showing his age a whole lot on camera, but he's 64 years old. Because I'm 77. I was 13 when I went with my dad, and he said I shot this bird. But you know what I think happened? I think he shot it. He let me claim it. That's been in my room as I grew up. A great memory of my dad. He also went hunting in Colorado, and he staged this hunt where he shot this animal, this beast, back in the woods. And they took a picture of him, a movie picture of him going back in there, and he pulled out this. And he brought it home to me. And it had a tail that used to squeak. It's a little bit like me, except I'm squeaking now where I didn't used to. My dad made great memories, and he sure loved me as a boy. And so when I grew up and left home, I remember watching my mom and dad that day in the driveway when I went away to college, and I choked up a bit as I looked at them and realized I really hadn't told them how much I loved them. And so I tried to do it that day, but God continued to go to work on me. I think basically back to the 10 Commandments, trying to get me to honor my parents. And it's more than just words. But I came to the conclusion that I needed to write my mom and dad a tribute. And I wrote my mom one in 1983. And I made the mistake of sending it to her instead of reading it to her. Should have taken it home personally and read it to her and wept my way through it. But I also made a second mistake. I didn't write my tribute to my dad before he died, because he died in 1976. Well before I'd solidified this idea, this message of honoring our parents with a tribute. And so I wrote him a tribute several years after I wrote my mom's. And it doesn't say at the top it's a tribute to Hook Rainey, but that's what it is. And I'll explain more about Hook Rainey here in a minute. Anyway, I just want to read it to you because I've now heard a ton of these tributes read to their parents. I've actually, people have sent them to me, and I've really been encouraged to hear how parents have gone out of their way to honor their parents in a powerful way, a concrete way, in a tangible way. And I've entitled this A Tribute to Hook Rainey. And a lot of years after he died. But it was really helpful to me to do this. Here goes. Dad's home. I used to yell as a little boy when the back door slammed shut. I remember that well. Our small two-story frame house would shudder when the back door slammed shut. The sound of that slamming door was especially loud when one man came through it. My dad. I can recall as a little boy playing in my room and hearing that door slam shut, and it sent a series of quakes throughout that house that rippled through the walls and rattled the windows. It was my dad's signature and signal that a day's work was done and a real man was now home. I would yell, "Dad's home!" And I would run through the house and through the hall and the kitchen and greet him with a well-deserved hug. I would then follow him around like a little puppy to the washroom where he washed his calloused, grimy hands like a real man did. He splashed water and soap everywhere. I'm sure it drove my mom crazy. Everything about him signaled he was a real man. From the gritty lava soap to the Vitalis hair tonic and Old Spice aftershave. My dad was a unique blend of no-nonsense and discipline with a very subtle sense of humor. He was a quiet and private man. He was a man of few words who didn't seem to need many to get the job done. His countenance commanded respect. In fact, there were several boys who had a personality and discipline transformation when they graduated from the 3rd grade Sunday school class into my dad's 4th grade class. Miraculously, discipline problems dried up along with dozens of paper spitwads. In the 12 months that followed, paper airplanes were grounded and 8 boys sat straight in their chairs, dutifully listening to the lesson. Hook Rainey, they used to call him, was a tall lefty who got his nickname from his curveball, a pitch so crooked it mystified batters. I got the feeling that he was on his way to becoming a legend of his day. In fact, he even pitched a game against Hall of Fame Major League pitcher Dizzy Dean. Funny thing, he could never conveniently remember the score of that memorable game. I used to accuse him of convenient amnesia. I recall the easy chair that used to carry the shape of his exhausted form. It was as he was reading the evening newspaper that I usually planned my assault on him. I'm certain I nearly pestered him to death on more than one occasion while asking my weary dad to play catch in the front yard. And play catch he did. Night after night, Hook taught me how to throw a curve, a slider, and a knuckleball. He used to claim you could count the stitches on his knuckleball as it approached your glove. And when he threw that patent knuckler in the front yard, the entire front yard echoed with laughter. Mine. And occasionally his. I always loved to hear him laugh. Somehow it told me everything was okay. Secure. When I was 3 or so, he went to Colorado hunting and he bagged that fierce teddy bear I just showed you. He staged the action on film and brought the fierce beast back to me. My kids used to play with that bear. It's now worn out, over 6 decades old. I watched him look after the needs of his mother. He used to visit his mom 3 or 4 times a week after dinner. He modeled what it meant to honor one's parents. From him, I learned about integrity, trust, and how to be a man of my word. His example taught me the importance of perseverance, for he stuck with his job for nearly 45 years. He leaves me an indelible imprint of sinking roots deep down and living with the same people whom he did business for more than 4 decades. When I was in high school, I won the magazine sales contest. This is really good. I enjoyed writing this because it gave me a chance to give him credit that was due here. I won the magazine sales contest as a senior because I introduced myself all around the county as Hook Rainey's son. That was good enough for an instant sale for nearly 100% of my customers. My dad had helped so many people in the country that when I went out there and told them about the magazines, they immediately wanted to buy one because he had immeasurable credibility. For a while, I actually thought I was a great salesman. Not so. I was hitchhiking off of him all the way. His reputation was untarnished in the community where he lived all of his days. His funeral was attended by nearly 1/3 of a small southern Missouri town. He lived and did his work all within 5 miles of where he was born. One man even said of my dad at the funeral, "In all my years, I never heard a negative word about Hook Rainey." He gave me imperishable memories instead of just things. Memories of Little League baseball. He was my coach. Fishing trips. He netted my fish so small they went through holes in my net. He even clipped a collection of all the baseball and basketball scores from my games in junior high and high school, of which he never missed a one. There are memories watching him through the window of an old pickup truck deliver hams to people at Christmas. Memories of the feel of his whiskers when he wrestled with me on the floor of the living room. And memories of him whispering to me, an extroverted, impetuous boy, not to bother people when they were at work. And finally, memories of snuggling close to him as he watched the game of the week with Dizzy Dean as the announcer. As an impressionable young boy, my radar caught more of his life than he ever knew. He was the model, the hero that I needed during those tumultuous and perilous teenage years. You know what? He still is. He taught me the importance of hard work and completing a task. I learned about lasting commitment from him. I never feared my parents would get a divorce. My dad was absolutely committed to my mom. I felt secure and protected. But most importantly, he taught me about character. He did what was right, even when no one was looking. I never heard him brag or talk about cheating on taxes. He paid them and didn't grumble. His integrity was impeccable. I never heard him lie, and his eyes always demanded the same truth in return. The mental snapshot of his character still fuels and energizes my life today as a man. Dad's home. I can still hear those words and the door slamming shut and the house quake. And this morning, as I wrote this, Dad truly is home in heaven. I look forward to seeing him again someday and saying thanks for the legacy that he gave me, and mostly for just being my dad. But right now, even after I wrote this a number of years ago, I still miss him. Here's the question if you're a son or a daughter. Have you honored your dad? Are you honoring your dad? Here's the question for the dads that are watching. Are you worthy of honor? Are you being the man that God calls you to be and lead and love and stick to your family and not be a deadbeat? That's what my dad called guys who wouldn't work. Are you worthy of respect? I don't know where you are in your life right now, but I know today there is a crisis in the family. And the crisis, all roads lead back to the office of dad and husband and the man of that home. And as I prepared this, I just prayed that you might catch a glimpse of a great man. He was never in the newspapers, but he lived it where it counted, in front of this boy's life. And he loved my mom. Now, I think the question for you is, what's your action point? What are you going to do? It's easy to be passive. That's what cowards do. Even as I say that word coward, that's not a word we use today, is it? But we need men today who are heroes, courageous, men who will press their face into the wind, into hard work, and into pain, and step up and do their duty as fathers, husbands, and men in the community. And so I pray that this podcast might be used in your life to move you to become an honorable man. May God's favor rest upon you. And you know what? If you enjoyed this, why don't you subscribe? We're trying to show up on the radar on YouTube, and we need subscribers. There's more of this where this came from. Stay with us. We'll walk alongside you and cheer you on, because it's not easy to be a man today. But whoever thought it should be? May God grant you courage and faith to step up. God bless.
Go to therainey's.org/podcast for more inspiring, courageous faith content.